Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at a Great League Remix Cup team with a very unorthodox moveset on Steelix that helps this trainer climb over 500 ELO all the way up to Legend. These battles were submitted to the channel by a member of the community, Tyler Durden, 1217, so many thanks for the battle submission. Now the moveset is Thunderfang, not using the standard Dragon Tail, and they pair it up with a Steelix and a Mantine to go on this massive climb to Legend. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches and let's take a look at this team in action. Hopping into the first match, this would typically be a terrible matchup for the Guzzlord, so they save switch out of here, and they fall for the trap. They send in Feraligatr into the Thunderfang Steelix, and look at this, Steelix absolutely destroying the Feraligatr. Could have gone for a Psychic Fangs to force a shield, but instead, opting for the energy, because this energy will be hyper useful into the Guzzlord if that's what the opponent decides to send back in. The opponent does have a 2-0 shield advantage, but this Guzzlord is not going to appreciate this damage. Already back-to-back Breaking Swipes loaded. Breaking Swipe does get the attack drop as well. That's a 50-50 chance. Going for Breaking Swipe number 2. Opponent commits the shield, sends in Cresselia. Cresselia fires off the Grass Knot. And I mean, they just have no answer for this Steelix up energy. Grass Knot, not going to be a problem whatsoever. In comes the Sableye. Sableye will be hit with the Moonblast, but Sableye can survive this. And in this matchup, it's very annoying to be the Cresselia because you can land the Moonblast, but you never have any fast move pressure. You're never going to be able to Psycho Hit down a Sableye. So this forces Cresselia to commit a shield and go for the Grass Knot to get rid of the Sableye. Sableye will get KO'd. But just like that, the opponent, their 2-0 shield advantage has completely evaporated. In comes the bulky Mantine. Mantine able to tank hit after hit. Opponent will go for the crunch. They do not get the debuff. Mantine firing off the Ice Beam. This is super effective damage. This is going to be goodbye to the Guzzlord. All that's left in the back is the Cresselia. Cresselia to be hit with the Ice Beam. This will not KO, but there is a charge attack loaded on the Steelix, and there's the combo play. Opponent, no time to react. They get KO'd, and that is a good game. Moving to the next match, leading Shadow Steelix into Empoleon. Normally, Empoleon crushes Steelix, but not today. The Thunderfang absolutely tearing through this Empoleon. Steelix is going to commit the shield as Empoleon fires off the Hydro Cannon. Opponent is going to save switch into Dragonair. Dragonair will be hit with the Breaking Swipe. This will do a ton of damage if it lands, which it does. And now in comes Sableye. Sableye going to get a very nice farm down. Aqua Tail not going to be able to threaten a KO. The Aqua Tail lands, Sableye, completely unbothered, gets the farm down and exits with energy. Back in comes the Empoleon, but Empoleon has to start shielding. They will get knocked out by a foul play. They are going to commit the shield. They try for the farm down, but realize they can't get it. So the opponent is forced to fire off the Hydro Cannon on charge attack priority. Back in comes the Steelix. In the back, it's Dragonite, and now going for the Psychic Fangs. I love this play. Breaking Swipe would threaten massive damage. I was going to say, so the opponent has to shield it. They end up no shielding a move that could have been super effective, but this still just sets up Mantine farm. Mantine tanking the Dragon Claw, getting the farm down. Empoleon has no ability to farm down the Mantine because Steel Wing is resisted, so Mantine can just double up on moves very safely, and this game is a win. The Aerial Ace lands, opponent stops attacking because they do not have a win con, and that's game over. Decent lead in the next match, Shadow Steelix versus the Cresselia. Honestly, the entire team is pretty okay into Cresselia. We see a save switch, switching out of the matchup into Sableye. Opponent doesn't build up to the Moonblast, only going for the Grass Knot, but Sableye is actually going to be committing a shield. So Sableye saying, you know what, you're probably trying to chip me to send something in, and the opponent is going to send in Magnezone. Magnezone hit with the foul play, that does quite a lot of damage. Opponent firing off energy, we do see the shield by Sableye. If it's the Wild Charge, you can just farm down after, and it is. So Sableye is going to be down 2 shields, but exit with a massive amount of energy to try and get those shields back. Opponent waiting the timer. They send back in Cresselia, so they clearly are not a massive fan of this Sableye. Sableye, foul play is going to connect. We see a switch into the Thunderfang Steelix. Steelix more than happy to look to try and go for a Thunderfang down as the opponent fires off the Grass Knot. In the back, it's Gligar. This is a situation where having Dragon Tail would be nicer because you would at the very least be able to hit for neutral in this situation, but this still is looking like a very favorable game outcome. as even with the Thunderfangs at -1 have been adding up. The Dig picks up the KO, but you have Mantine in the back to make the Gligar go for the much weaker move of Aerial Ace. Gligar massively overfarming the Mantine is as well. Opponent is going to fire off the Aerial Ace, and Mantine able to tank that no problem. Looks like Mantine is just going to look to try and commit to a farm down now. Aerial Ace will connect. In comes Cresselia. We see the switch into the Sableye. Sableye gets the farm down, and the opponent realizes they're just getting KO'd with 2 shields remaining. They just don't have the health, so they resign the match. Moving into the next match, bit of a tricky lead, leading the Shadow Steelix into a Greedent. The safe switch into the Mantine, because with no Lantern, Mantine does end up being a far safer switch. Opponent sends in their own Mantine, and now we have the battle of the water flying types. Opponent fires off the Aerial Ace. Mantine going to go for the Ice Beam, as Ice Beam is going to hit harder than a potential Aerial Ace. The Ice Beam is going to connect, but hitting harder still does not mean that it hits hard, as the opponent is able to tank that damage. They're going for the Aerial Ace. Aerial Ace barely does not KO the Mantine, able to hang on and fire off a last-second Ice Beam. The Ice Beam will connect. Aggressive switch into the Steelix and sniping with the Thunderfangs. Back in comes the Greedent, but now the Steelix has an energy advantage, and Steelix is going to fire off the Psychic Fangs to get the guaranteed defense drop and start ramping up the damage from these Thunderfangs. Opponent, do they have Crunch or Trailblaze? Let's find out. They have Trailblaze, but they switch out into a Jellicent. Oh no, the opponent definitely could have stayed in there because they had boosted their attack. I guess they wanted to switch out due to the debuff defense, but now they've brought in a Jellicent into a Thunderfang Steelix. And while this Jellicent does have Bubble, we're just going to see a switch into the Sableye. And Sableye, I mean, I really like this shield decision. This battler has a very interesting way of playing where they really like going down 2 shields, but they save energy everywhere to be able to get those shields back. Because oftentimes going down 2 shields can be catastrophic, but this battler makes sure to have a game plan, so that way even if the 2 shields are conceded, then you can still apply pressure back to the opponent and get those shields back. Greedent has to start ramping up these Trailblazes more and more and more. Sableye continuing to apply pressure, building up way past the return. The foul play is able to get the shield, making it to 1 more foul play, and this should just be game over. This foul play doesn't quite KO, but it just gets it low enough. We see the switch into the Mantine. Mantine gets the wing attack down, because even when boosted, you're not getting a Mudshot farm down. Tough lead in the next match, leading Shadow Steelix into Double. Double in this meta can also have Wild Charge, which would be very awkward for the Mantine. In comes the Mantine. Opponent farming up a massive amount of energy. Oh, and we actually do see, interestingly enough, Mantine get the cycle reset. So now the opponent is forced to go over 100 or throw on bad timing. They go over 100, they get cycle reset again, and now they're just forced to throw on alignment. So the opponent overfarming a bit too much there, and this battler able to make them pay. Mantine already shielded once, unfortunately shielded a body slam, going to shield twice, and there it is. There's the Wild Charge. Mantine going for the Aerial Ace, trying to get the double off the field of play. Opponent commits the shield, and there's the catch. Clocks up back onto the Steelix, catching the Wild Charge. Opponent sending in Sableye now, and this is very okay. Sableye is going to win charge attack priority, but foul play not going to be enough to knock out. The foul play is going to connect, and now we are going to see Steelix return fire with the Breaking Swipe. Breaking Swipe is going to be no shielded. It does get the attack drop. Opponent not going to be able to farm down. They're forced to throw energy, and this does set up the potential for a very nice Sableye Shadow Claw farm down. Going to wait the clock because the opponent is not switch locked here. And now we're going to see actually the Mantine being brought in here, and it's the Pelipper. So Pelipper going to be forced to throw Hurricanes in this matchup. Hurricane, of course, pretty expensive charge attack. Mantine makes it to the Aerial Ace. Pelipper forced to fire off the hard-hitting Hurricane. And by throwing the Hurricane there, they can no longer make it versus the Sableye. They only make the Weather Ball, and now it all comes down to this. Can Sableye make it to a foul play? Sableye is on the 5 cycle here. Sableye does get Shadow Clawed down right as they make it to the move. We see the dream lead in the next match. Shadow Thunderfang Steelix versus Mantine. Opponent save switches into Greedent. And not really a clear response to Greedent save switch on this team, so just going to stay in with the Steelix, tank a move, debuff with Psychic Fangs, and then send in the Mantine, as Greedent is a bit of a core breaker for the Steelix plus Sableye core. The opponent is on Trailblaze, which means all future moves are going to be doing more damage since they fired off their first Trailblaze. In comes the Mantine, opponent goes for the Body Slam. The next body slam will be reached when the ice beams reach, clicking on the ice beam, but losing that charge attack priority. Boosted body slam will make its presence felt, connecting onto the Mantine. Mantine returning fire with the ice beam and going to go for an undercharge. I really like this play, as this is going to give Mantine a little bit of extra farm. And now, this is going to be close, but Mantine may be able to make it to 2 ice beams. It's going to be very, very close, but looking at the move graphic here, the Mantine is a very high rank. It looks like Mantine will be able to get there. Ooh, decides against committing for it. I believe the swing attack's not going to be enough to KO, but the opponent shields regardless, so it ends up being a moot point. In comes the Steelix, those Thunder Fangs, doing some pretty nice damage, protecting against a potential Water Pulse. The Mantine is running Water Pulse, and they get there. Oh no! They get to the last second Water Pulse, forcing the shield in the back. It's a Quagsire, and this is looking tough. Potentially, if the shield was just safe for the Sableye, this could be a pretty okay position. But now Sableye down a shield and down energy, even with the debuff that's applied to the Quagsire. This is looking tough as the Stone Edge connects. That does some pretty substantial damage. Sableye needs to make 2 foul plays, and the math is not mathing here. Sableye going to get outpaced. Aqua Tail will be able to pick up the KO, and then Steelix is going to get outpaced by the Quag as well. Oh, this Quagsire is actually on Mud Bomb. Very, very interesting. So they're on Mud Bomb and Stone Edge. No Aqua Tail on the Quagsire, but unfortunately Quag up a shield, just too deadly in this endgame. We've got some spice from the opponent in the next match. Thunderfang Steelix versus Ledian. Ledian staying in the matchup, realizing it's Thunderfang, switching out into Greedent. And with these Greedent save switches, that debuff and dip strategy ends up working very nicely. As now the opponent, their defense is debuffed, so after a couple more wing attacks, double Aerialace will be able to KO. The opponent goes for the Trailblaze, this time into the Mantine, and they're going to be firing off the boosted Body Slam. But that shouldn't be a concern, as you can just double up on Aerialaces here before they make their next slam. Interestingly enough, going for the Ice Beam. This won't KO, but it will set up a 1-shield farm down play. And it looks like that's exactly what they're going to go for here, is the 1-shield farm down play, just to exit with energy. Opponent denies the farm down, switching back into the Ledian, but Ledian is going to have a terrible time here. Ledian, an extremely bulky Pokemon, but unfortunately it's very much held back by the fact that it only has access to truly terrible fast moves. Ledian forced to give up a shield and fire off energy. Mantine continuing to let this go. Ledian goes for the Aerialace. It barely does not KO. The high rank Mantine coming in clutch, making it to another Aerialace. The Ledian double shields, and now in comes Sableye, because Ledian can learn Dynamic Punch. So if you send in Sableye, of course, going to be single resisting that. Sableye going to get the farm down. What do they have in the back? We know they still have the low health Greedent, but Greedent's in a range where it could potentially get farmed down here. The opponent realizing they do not have a win con, and they resign the match. Tough lead in the next match. Steelix into the Venusaur. We see the save switch into the Mantine. Opponent is going to answer with Frostlass. This is a situation where having Water Pulse would be quite nice, as Water Pulse does give Mantine a higher damage per energy move in this situation, but instead going to fire off the Aerialace. Aerialace is going to be no-shielded by the Frostlass. Not farming up to a potential Water Pulse means that the opponent can no-shield this if they want to. They decide to preserve some HP, however. They're going to farm up quite a bit of energy, firing off the Avalanche on charge attack priority. Mantine just going to let this go, because now you can potentially try and go for some energy on Sableye. In comes the Sableye. Sableye gets the farm down, exiting with quite a lot of energy. The opponent sends in the Venusaur, and oh boy, if they're sending in the Venusaur, they are not going to be a fan of this Sableye up energy. Sableye shields up the Frenzy Plant, looking to fire off some energy. Opponent no longer feels they can win the match, and they concede. Hopping into the final match, the win and in-game to Legend, and what a lead, leading the Steelix into the Magnezone. Thunderfangs, despite being resisted, are adding up in this matchup, and nothing Magnezone has can touch this Pokemon. Like Wild Charge, Mirror Shot, it's all heavily resisted. They end up shielding a Breaking Swipe and getting debuffed as well. Oh no, this is an absolute disaster for the Magnezone. Magnezone continue to farm. They're firing off more energy. Steelix still not going to shield. They go for the Wild Charge. Steelix does not care, and Steelix will look for the knockout with the Breaking Swipe. This will easily KO. Opponent is going to let this through. What are they going to send in? They send in a Pelipper to a Thunderfang Steelix. They've got to be so weak. It's the ultimate core break. And now Steelix, I mean, at this point, you have to shield. You're smelling blood in the water at this point. If they're sending in a Pelipper to a Thunderfang Steelix, they have nothing for this. Is it Mantine? Of course it is. It always was. And now the final Pokemon, they're forced to commit a shield on a Psychic Fangs. Thunderfang Steelix looking for the 1v3 here. Can it get it? Firing off the Breaking Swipe. The Breaking Swipe connects. Oh no, Thunderfang Steelix comes just a couple HP short of 1v3ing an entire team, but that's still going to be good enough for Legend. Let's go. Going to be catching this Goomy, and I believe it was at 2980 something, so that's easy Legend there. Getting up to 3026. Big congratulations. All in all, I definitely think that Thunderfang Steelix is a pretty unique idea, and I'm very happy to see that this trainer was able to have a ton of success with it. Now, the regular Steelix running Dragon Tail, of course, is extremely strong in the meta, but it goes to show that thinking outside the box can definitely produce some very positive outcomes. So, I definitely like this approach to team building, is not necessarily going with, okay, on paper, PV Poke, these are the strongest mons, I'm just going to run these mons, but instead, critically thinking about it and going, how can I confuse opponents? How can I get them off their game? Because at this point, after quite a few days of Remix and the 200 battles during Go Battle Weekend, people are very familiar with how to play out the meta matchups, but throwing something at them that they may not expect, like in this case, especially in a water-heavy meta like the Remix meta, can cause opponents to make mistakes and misplay, and then you as the battler are able to take advantage. And climbing 500 points, I believe in the notes he said he climbed 500 points in 4 hours over Go Battle Weekend, so truly a staggering climb. So massive, massive congratulations. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is sincerely appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.